We are now on patch 14.3, and here are the 5 best comps to play this patch. I am Snuble, a challenger for multiple sets, and this time I'll go over the 5 comps that I think you should be playing to climb the ladder this patch. These are the comps you're going to see win most of your lobbies. The first comp we'll look at is Heartsteel Ezreal. This is probably the strongest comp in the meta, and it's going to be winning most of your lobbies. The comp is really strong because of Heartsteel mid-game being very strong. It lets you get to a lot of resources you're not able to get into other comps. It lets you cash out Ornn items, Radiant items, which is the same as being up augments. It just gives you more resources. It lets you cap so high and get to like spots other boards cannot. Cashing out a fawn, etc. is just going to let you get so much further. So this comp is going to be winning most of your lobbies. It's also going to, it's a scary style. You can often just lose straight up because you're playing on that thin line between life and death, but you are trying to win the game. It's a top 2 comp, not a top 4 comp. You're mostly playing around 2 Big Shot, 2 Crowd Diver with set Ezreal, and then generic. It's a generic shot on top. You get EDM for set, which makes them a fair amount stronger. You get Jash, which just boosts the board. Then you're playing some of the strong generic units like Poppy, like set. These units just do a lot by existing. You get 2 Bruiser, and it's just a nice threat all around, but mostly you need, the core parts are like Big Shot, Crowd Diver, just need 2 of each, and then Frontline. Usually this is the easiest one to play because you're playing Heartsteel to begin with, but later you can drop stuff like Set for Allow, you can drop Yone for Qiyana, but often you won't get to that point. So this is like the easiest core to play around, and easy level 9 addition is Lucian for the extra Jazz stack. Generically, legendaries are very good too. 6 if you have a Fawn is good, it gives you a lot of extra stats with Dazzler and Hyperpop coming in for Jazz stuff. But that's like level 9 with a Fawn or level 10 stuff. It's very far away. But if you have a lot of extra AP items, 6 can be a very viable third carry. There's a lot of different headliners. You're mostly looking for Set and Ezreal, and you don't care which one you get. But if you have Big Shot Ezreal, you could do stuff like play 4 Big Shot instead of Bard. You could drop probably for 4 Big Shot too if you want to. And just Kai'Sa or Jhin, doesn't matter. You get 4 Big Shot with the Ezreal. If you have the Heartsteel one, you often don't care about playing more Heartsteel because you often get to this board when you're on cashing out. So usually you'd look for the headliner with Big Shot or EDM sack. It's probably okay too, but other than that, you're looking for Set and Ezreal. And if you get EDM sack, you can play the Lux version of the board, but this is not a suggested version. Sometimes this kind of happens. You drop Poppy, you play this, you EDM sack, you get a lot of CC from all these 4, but it slows down your set a lot. But generically, this is also okay. The augments you're looking for are combat augments mostly. Here we have Last Stand, Vampires, and Binary. These are all very strong. Binary scales with item, Vampirism, Last Stand scales with being low HP. Last Stand helps you win out the game. The combat power on Last Stand is just very high and makes closing out games easy. You've probably already faced Last Stand and felt it unfair, but specifically in this comp, it just goes very hard. The best items, the items you care the most about, are stuff like Blue Buff and Ezreal. You really want an even shot on set. GA and healing, very good on set. Healing could be Gunblade, could be Hodge, but BT is preferred. Ezreal wants the blue buff, and then he likes stuff like red buff, GS, IE. Which one's not important? Blue buff is the best one though. So look heavily for blue buff. Other stuff like red buff is very good too, but it's not as necessary. You don't, like in theory, or in actuality, you don't have to have blue buff either. You can very much play Ezreal without it, it's just you prefer to. But Ezreal without blue buff also works. But if you just kind of want a red buff, then for speed. But in theory, that's still fine. The second comp we're going to look at is 7 Pentakill. This board caps super high. You're looking to play the 7 Pentakill version, and sometimes you won't be able to. The 7 Pentakill version only works if you're playing a Pentakill Chosen or if you hit a Yorick, which is not things you can guarantee, but you can often look heavily enough for the Pentakill Chosen that this is a board you can get to. If you're not playing the 7 Pentakill version, you'd often want to play the Superfan version where you drop, let's say, Olaf, and you don't have Yorick yet. You play 2 Superfans, Lily and Nico, and you get the generic Pentakill board with KDA in. The issue with this board is Karthus' headliner is terrible, specifically his Superfan item, because Archangel doesn't do much for him, as he has inbuilt AP now. And so you kind of need Viego Chosen or a Kali Chosen for this to be good, and you don't really want a Kali Chosen. But it can be something you play mid-game. But mostly you're looking to get to 7 Pentakill, that's your cap, that's when you win the game. And then specifically Yorick is just very strong, so getting to 9 and finding Yorick is just an easy way to win games. This unit is completely off the wall. This guy does way too much damage, tanks way too much. He's one of the strongest legendaries, and this is one of the best shells for him. But yeah, the 7 Pentakill version, if you see either Viego or Karthus Pentakill, you're set. Your board does so much for free. The best one is probably Karthus, and he's often your main carry. He's consistent, he kills a lot of units, he's good at killing backline. He doesn't die randomly like Viego does. Karthus is a very solid carry currently, and 7 Pentakill is very strong with him. To play him, you kind of need Executioner, but in a spot like this, with a board like this, if you have the Sentinel +1, you can drop Olaf for Edgelord, you get Edgelord for killing Viego. If you have the Edgelord chosen on Viego, you can just play this board straight. If you have the Executioner, you can drop a Kali for an Edgelord, depending on if you don't have items for it. You play items on Viego, you put an Edgelord instead. this would be a version of the board, and it still just looks like this, right? You have Executioner on Karthus, because Karthus needs Executioner, but there's a lot of different ways to like guarantee this, right? So you just play around the chosen you hit, and they're all viable. Sometimes you can even do Mordekaiser Pentakill if you're close to a 3-star. Mordekaiser 3 is very, very, very strong. But other than that, you want GA and healing on Viego, still very good melee carries, make them way more consistent. Karthus really wants Shojin. Casting a lot for him is very important. Morello is very good. The last item on both carries could be whatever. Karthus could do, even Rabadon's is okay, 20% damage, a lot of damage. But yeah, more mana is not bad either. So you could do an Adaptive, you could do a Shiv, you could do Nashers. If you have a Shojin, Nashers gets quite good on Karthus. But the last item is pretty flexible. Same goes for Viego. You can play extra healing, like Gunblade, like a Hodge. Or you could just play generic damage. Usually generic damage is preferred. DP is a good option, but at this point you need way too many souls. So just look for anything that works for you. It doesn't have to be like Gabrik is a decent option too, like just anything. And you can find that works. He's not that picky. Neither is Karthus, I guess, but specifically Shojin and Morello are really, really good. Those are your main options. Augments, Vampirisms are very good. They give you healing, super important. Shopping Spree is very good, as this board is very good if you hit it early. It's very good at killing backline with Karthus. And early Karthus too will win fights for free because people are still 1-starred, stuff like that. Shopping Spree is generally very good. But if you get to the board, you're quite strong. Other good options are like item augments, because you play 1, 2, 3, 4 units you don't mind putting items on, 5 you play a Kali. So extra items are usually quite valuable. Here is you have a lot of units that can effectively use them, which is not always the case for comps. On 9, you put in whatever that's strong. You have a lot of options, but a classic option is Ilaoi, because Ilaoi is just very, very strong baseline. But mostly you go 9 to find Yorick. Ilaoi is a good bonus though. Early game, you can play around on Olaf carry. Olaf is very good with Viego items. Early TG, BC Olaf can streak the game on his own. Early Kayle can hold Karthus items very effectively. Kayle's a very strong mid-game unit too, and Mordekaiser is the same. So like play stage 2, and then stage 2, if you find any of these pieces, it makes it very easy to transition into this in-game board, because you're playing around a lot of these traits anyways. The third comp I'm going to recommend is the Executioner's comp. This comp has a few advantages, one of them being that it's very linear to pilot. Another one being that it can use a lot of extra items, making stuff like item grab back gun. It can also very early hit expose weakness, which gives you a lot of direction for free. If you find early Vexes, Samiras, Amumu's, Twitches, this is also a thing you can look for. The comp is very flexible items. The main things you really need in this comp for it to shine is Gargoyles and Amumu. 2 preferred, but 1 is fine. And any tier item on Vex. Shiv is good, Hodge is good, Arcane is okay. But you need the 1 tier because it gives her 2 extra autos less on her first cast, which means she gets online so much faster. This is probably my preferred setup, since Amumu does a lot of damage too. The Shiv gets a lot of value, gives her a bit of attack speed, and Morella, like Rabadon's, is just so much front-loaded damage that this is worth looking for. Vex is going to be your main carry most of the time. This unit is just the strongest of the Executioners. 3-star Vex does inane amounts of damage. You've probably already faced it. It still does completely insane amounts of damage. Your secondary carry can either be Samira or Twitch. They're both fine. Samira is the best one, but if you find a lot of Twitch early, you're always going to put items on Twitch instead. They use more or less the same items, so we could just move these to Twitch if you're playing Twitch 3 instead of Samira. But they're both very good. Depends on what you're hitting. The comp is very, very strong on 6 Executioner specifically, so you're always going to need an Executioner headline. You sometimes have to pick up Emo Vex if you need to hit the Vex to not die, and you just replace the Akali with the Poppy. Poppy is more frontline, but this is overall a weaker version of the board. But you sometimes have to pick up the Vex. If you see Emo Vex and you haven't seen Executioner Vex and you're on 6 Vexes and this makes you a 3-star, you have to take it. It's too much tempo not to take it, but it caps you lower. But it's like this board can still win games if you hit it early and push levels. The win con of the board is hitting Vex 3 and Mumu 3 is mostly like how you top whatever with the board. That's when you hit your spikes and when you're very, very strong. One of the reasons this board is generically so good is because it's stable mid-game on the 2-star board. Vex 2 and Mumu 2 is going to be very, very stable. It's going to kill a lot of units and win some fights stage 4. If you hit any of it stage 3, you're going to be super stable off that anyways. Augments. Generically, item augments are good. You have 3 different frontline carry, an AP carry, and an AD carry. You can use basically any item in the game effectively. And then March of Progress is very strong too. It gives you a lot of resources, a lot of gold. It lets you roll down on 3-2 for a stable board. It lets you get to the 3-star version of the board that can win lobbies and still gets you to level 8 and level 9 relatively early. And then on higher levels, like level 9, you're looking to play for Guardian. Would be a way to cap out the board really heavily. This is level 9, which is far away. You can also, just on level 8, you can drop Pantheon for Thresh and then play another country unit for country. This drops Pantheon, but if you don't have a 3-star Pantheon, you don't mind that much because you don't need the Punk on Twitch because it's only 2 Punk. And at the point you're level 8, you don't really care about 1 gold rerolls because you probably already hit your 3 stars, which means you don't care that much about the extra resources from that. This is probably your best level 8 board, and then level 9 you put Pantheon back in, along with the Yorick to get 4 Guardian for that insane frontline. This comp can very much win games. It caps out super high because Vex is very, very strong, and Amumu is very, very strong. Samira is serviceable, and all around this comp it just ends up being very strong. It's slightly awkward to get to sometimes, but if you get there, it's just very, very good. You can beat a lot of boards that seem like they're supposed to be unbeatable. There's a lot of scam potential. A lot of this is like hard. It becomes slightly hard to play because of Vex being an AoE unit. Like if you're only hitting 1 unit of Vex, if you instead hit 3 units, you'd literally do 3 times the damage, which is why this positioning looks as awkward as it does, because people surrounding Amumu and then Vex hitting multiple units is a big part of why this comp is strong. Abusing this positioning to get more value out of your Vex damage. But yeah, the items are super flexible. Gargoyle, 1 tier on Vex, then just generic damage. This is probably a good version of Vex, but you could do a lot here. Like GS is fine, Harsh is fine. I'd probably skip a BT, but like Nashor's is fine. Shoujin's good too. Like you can just, there's a lot of options. Adaptive is good. A lot of options. If you end up with insane amounts of items, you can always put items on Karthus. He's also good in this board, but he's a lower prior than Vex for sure. The fourth combo I'll recommend is an old combo we saw a few patches back being popular, which I've toyed around with this patch and I think is quite good. I think it's seeing too little play, and I've had a lot of success with it on my main, and I'm currently playing a Smurf where I'm mostly only playing this, also finding a lot of success. It's 6 Sentinel Ahri. 6 Sentinel is just so much frontline for free. And Ahri lost her worst matchup. Disco TF has been gone for a while, so Ahri gets to run free. She's very strong into 2 of the best meta boards, specifically very strong into Heartsteel Ezreal, into the Pentakill board, because she gets to kill Set and Viego for free often, which is very, very good in those matchups because they lose a lot of their carries, like a lot of power on their board by losing their carries. Some of the issues with this board is that the Ahri needs very specific items. If you don't get specifically blue buff, Nash, or Gunblade, you're going to be a lot weaker than you want to be. Some of these items have replacements, like you can run a lot of different attack speed items. You can drop Nash for a red buff, but that's like mostly about it. Blue buff is mandatory, and Gunblade is very, very good if not mandatory. You really want these items. They're higher prior than you'd normally see items be. If you don't have these items, I wouldn't play the comp. Support items of Seraphine are also surprisingly good. A 2-star Seraphine in this board will do a lot of work. If you have a 3-star Seraphine, you could also be playing this board, but then often your Seraphine chosen makes 6 Sentinel super awkward to fit, so you're often just playing 7 KDA, 3 Spellweaver, or 5 Spellweaver, 5 KDA, depending on the Seraphine. But Seraphine reroll is also very strong, but it's more niche than this. This board stabilizes really hard on your 4-2 roll, and if you hit 1 Ahri. 1 Ahri of these items is going to do wild amounts of work. You can find 6 Sentinel without any chosen, but your best chosen on the roll down is often any form of Sentinel headliner, so you can drop Cassandra for anything. Often like a Lulu. If you high roll a lot, you can put like Kiana in, but often anything like a Lulu, a 2-star forecast of any kind, a Poppy, but often just like a Lulu for hyper pop. Makes it leveling for Sona easy and fitting 5 Spellweaver too. Mostly there's an open slot. You could play extra Blitzcrank, extra Mordekaiser if you hit it too on the open slot, but any Sentinel chosen, Echo, Mordekaiser, Blitzcrank are your preferred options. Ahri chosen is also very good. If you have a KDA spat, Ahri KDA chosen becomes by far the best option because it lets you fit 5 KDA for free here with like an Akali, which is very strong. But that specifically with a spat. And then KDA spat on Mordekaiser, Echo, or Blitzcrank are all very strong. Awkward wise, stuff like Little Bodies is very strong, as your Ahri really likes attack speed, and you're playing 1, 2, in this case you'd keep Cassandra in for the Little Bodies value. 3, 4 small units, right? Seraphine, Cassandra, Lilia, Garen, you just drop Mordekaiser as your 6th Sentinel instead if you have the chosen. This gives a lot of attack speed to both Ahri and also Sona later in the game. Both of those units really like attack speed and captures super high. Vampirism is just one of the best silvers in the game, also for this board. Some of your frontline, Mordekaiser and Blitzcrank, also do enough damage that this heals them a fair amount, especially if you build stuff like Crown Guard. This gives Blitz a lot of damage along with a lot of shielding. And then Roll the Dice is just so high tempo. If you play it on early Echo, early Mordekaiser, it'll save you a lot of HP. It's very strong on Blitz late game anyways, because you can use both tank and AP items efficiently, as his shield scales so well with AP. It's 600 shielding, times up with the amount of AP, right? Any AP Radiant item, he does 1500 shielding instantly. Damage also just pretty high on Blitz. I think you've seen those before. Blitz can just very much do 3-4k a fight. Board's generally very strong. It's very easy to pilot. You go to level 8, you fit this board, and you're super strong instantly. And it can win lobbies for sure. If you get there with like 50 HP, the game is super easy. One thing that's slightly peculiar with this board is you often don't go 9 before you've hit the 2-star Ahri. Sometimes even the 2-star Blitz. Because there's not that much to find on level 8. It depends. Sometimes you need to go like level 9. Sometimes you need to go look for the Sona. But often the 2-star Ahri and the Blitzcrank can get you far enough. But it does cap a lot higher if you get to something like this. 5 Spellweaver, 6 Sentinel. And then this is the Little Bodies version. Yeah, support items and Seraphine are very strong. Morello is really, really good. Anti-healing is very, very strong on any board. And then Shiv is just very good for the shred. You could also replace the Shiv with a Spark, but in general, this is what you're looking for. These are the premium items, but this is 3 tiers, so it's hard to guarantee. The last board I'll talk about is Punk Jinx. Both Rapid Fire and Punk work, but the core of the comp is playing around Jinx Pantheon and then adding in units that fit. If you have the Punk chosen, you'll play a Vi on the board to get the 4 Punk. If you have the Rapid Fire chosen, you'll drop Vi for any Rapid Fire, and you'll get 4 Rapid Fire instead. We'll just assume Punk here, but this is the general idea. This is the level 8 board you're looking for. You play Superfan here because you cannot fit 6 Guardian yet. At level 9, you'll drop Gnar for an extra Guardian, and then the +1 from going 9 also gets you another, so you get to 6 Guardian, which gives you insane amounts of frontline for your Rageblade Jinx, which gets you super, super far into fights, and you can often just win out because the amount of frontline and the damage from Jinx is enough to kill most boards. Board cap's pretty high when you get to Lucian 2, but if you get stuck in a spot where you hit too late to get to 9 and find Lucian 2, you cap decently low, but you have a lot of mid-game tempo from early Jinx 3. This board often wants to find an early Jinx and Vi and start rolling to get those 1 gold cost rolls in early for the extra stats and for the cheap rolls. You can hit Jinx 3 very, very early, and a Jinx 3 stage 3 can often just streak the stage if you have items for her. Your early game is often just Jinx, Pantheon, Vi if you have a Punk chosen, and then more Guardians for the front line. Early Superfan is very strong, like Gnar, Kennen, Lily, and Nico, or like just any combination of 3, giving you a free Rageblade, because early game items are worth so much more than they are later in the game. So an early item on Jinx can just win you a lot of fights straight up. Extended play is surprisingly good, but I'd only take it on 2-1. Pandora's items, because Jinx is pretty picky with items. Specifically, this is like something along the lines of what you want. This is often the Superfan item. It doesn't have to be. Double Rageblade is not even bad, but it's not what you're looking for. GS is very strong. This is one of the few multipliers Jinx has access to. DP is not that good on her because she gets AD from Punk. Crit is not good on her because she has no ability that needs to crit. Auto attack crits are not very efficient. So you want GS as one of a few multipliers. Last Whisper is the same. Reduction of the enemy's resistance is another way to multiply your damage. So these are 2 of the few effective ways to multiply Jinx damage. Another one is Hurricane, also very strong. And also Guardbreaker does the job, but you prefer these 2. Hurricane's probably your 3rd option. Rageblade is not mandatory, but close to. It's very, very good on her. GS also gives you 20 AP, which gives you an extra breakpoint on Jinx for an extra 1% attack speed on her passive, but that's not necessarily super important. It's just, if you have a Rageblade, the value of another Rageblade or a Gunblade goes up because it gets you a breakpoint, but GS gets you most of the way there anyways. The board stalls for a long time, especially when you get to 6 Guardian, and getting to 6 Guardian is your endgame cap. Yorick 2 can often win the game on his own, but since you're looking to play a lot of frontline and scaling backline, stuff like Ascension also becomes better than normal. Anthony's a weird tank because he's Guardian. Guardians don't scale a lot of tank items well, but they do scale efficiently with Warmogs, Dragon's Claw, and Bramble. They're just slightly weaker with stuff like Steadfast, Vow, because Vow procs the shield after the Guardian shield, so you don't get the extra resistances on the Guardian shield. Steadfast, often you go below 50 HP and lose the main damage reduction part on your Guardian shield. Redemption's very good, but it has some of the same issues where his HP bar is big because of the Guardian shield, but the Redemption doesn't actually heal that. Adapt is another strong option on Pantheon. Sunfire is very good. Generically, anti-healing is very good. So if you could fit any form of anti-healing, that's usually also something you're looking for. Morello, Yorick is very strong late game, but mostly you're looking for a Sunfire or a red buff. You're basically always playing Jinx Handler, but sometimes you can pick up a Vi headliner if you need it for the tempo. You can play Vi carry. She uses tank items. She also uses Bruce items like Sterax, like BT, like IE, but mostly you can just play her for like early game tempo. If you find the 3-star on its own, it's good to keep. And if you later find a Punk spat, playing 6 Punk is nearly always correct, but you need to find a Punk spat for that. Punk spat goes on Yorick or Lucian or Kate. Yorick's the best target because he uses both the HP and the AD very efficiently. That's it for today. Appreciate you guys having me and hope you have a good climb on the patch.